Ciao.
Not in the right headspace to be making decisions like this. And also, I already have a better plan. We're going to organize a peaceful protest using dinner party.
In common with what we've been talking about is kindness. That's why, there's people doing bad things in Ted Lasso, but people are kind. It's a kind thing.
Yeah. The Sawyer book that I got, Allison Sheridan is here with us, everybody. Allison Sheridan. She is the host of a NosillaCast podcast online at podfeet.com, and you can follow what she does on Twitter as well at PODFEET, Podfeet.
Yep.
Sawyer is an interesting guy. His work is rooted in science. And when you're reading one of his stories that's about good things happening, I mean, they're just wonderful. And there's always adversity. There's always an issue, but it's not always a bad guy. And occasionally it means, all of humanity could be at risk, but a lot of times it doesn't. There's just something, he's a huge Star Trek fan. That I think is part of it. He's a huge TOS, TNG fan. Okay. And so occasionally one of his characters will start talking about that and start talking about those ideas and ideals as well.
That's fun.
Which is, kind of fun. So anyway, people can look him up or they can't or whatever. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Unless you just so happen to invite Robert J. Sawyer to your dinner party, which would be crazy.
Nope.
I got to say, Allison, I think this might be my favorite time of the week.
You think so?
Because this is the time of the week, right? First of all, when it ends, which is not bad. But then also, I've sort of set up the Friday shows as a time to really learn about the guests. Like you may remember, golly, a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, I was doing the album sides when people could come and hear the 5 best songs to put on an album. And, you learn something about people's musical taste and the kinds of things that interest them at that point. We moved on then to Wheel of Stuff, where stuff would come up randomly. And they would answer questions. It might be, what's the scariest thing you've ever done? Might be, tell me a toy story. Might be, I can't remember any of the other ones right now. But you end up learning things about the people that are on the show. The new thing that we're doing now is dinner party. Although since it's the summer, I'm thinking about making a backyard barbecue. I don't know. The idea being, though, you get 3 people that you get to spend an evening with.
You said they don't have to be alive.
Well, it'd probably be good if they were alive for the dinner.
Yes.
But no, they don't have to be alive right now. I was just going to say, it could be anybody in history. Language is not an issue. So if you're like, gosh, I'd love to talk to that Genghis Khan, but I don't speak what Genghis Khan spoke. Well, that's okay. You've got universal translators or something, so you can do that too. You get to invite 3 people, and I'm curious, who is the first person that gets an invitation?
The first one took me no time at all. I would like to have dinner with Grace Hopper. She was born in 1906. She became a rear admiral in the Navy, but what she's known for is she led the release of the first compiled languages. So before you had, binary languages, she was the one who came up with this concept of compiled code, and that her work led to the COBOL language. And so she was an absolute pioneer in computer programming. She's a hero of mine, and I named one of my cats after her. But what really sold me on her was everybody look this up. Just look up Grace Hopper, David Letterman. David Letterman interviews her, and she is freaking hysterical. So here she is, this little fireball ancient woman at the time. She was in her 80s, I think, when she was on the show. And she brought with her some string. And this was a little trick she used to do. She would try to be able to explain to people in the military how long it takes to communicate with, for example, like the Apollo astronauts. And so she needed a way to explain how long a nanosecond was. And so she cut strings into nanosecond lengths at the speed of light. And so she would carry these around and give it to them to try to help them understand how far away in time that is to be able to communicate with the astronauts. And she was funny. She was clever. She did brilliant things. She was a rear admiral. Can you just imagine the stories she'd have to tell at dinner? You wouldn't have to talk at all.
They're it feels like either one of those things would be enough to make her an amazing person, because I don't know a lot about the Navy, but how many female rear admirals were there? when
Not
she became
thinking
a rear
lot.
admiral. Yeah.
It was she started her career in the Navy in the 1940s. I forget when she retired, but plus she's funny. You know, you got to be funny.
Yeah, well, that's you'd hope so anyway. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. So I thought she'd be interesting.
So Grace Hopper is the first one. Who gets the second invitation?
The second invitation is going to be my great-great-granddaughter. She's not living yet.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, good.
Tell me why. I mean, I can think of 1,000 reasons why, but they're mine, not yours. Tell me why.
Well, I would hope to find out whether women are treated equally in business and in science and math and listened to, and whether we've made any progress. How she was influenced by whichever one of my current grandchildren ends up being her mother or father. You know, what traits got passed down, you know, through culture from me to my kids to their kids to their kids. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be an interesting conversation. Be fun to meet somebody from the future that was descended, you know, down your family line.
But you would want her to know that you're her what'd you say, great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother?
Yeah, that'd be great-grandmother.
You'd want her to know that? Or would it be like, no, just
sure.
Come on by, random person?
No, she'd need to know. She might need to be great-great-granddaughter, because now that I think about it, I'm in reasonably good shape, and I've got grandchildren now, so there's a chance I'll actually meet her. So I might want to go another generation beyond.
All right. Yeah.
But one of the fun things I love to tell people with young kids is, do you realize there will be a time where you're going to sit down and have a beer with that person? And it just, poof, blows the top of their head off.
Wait, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
If you got a 3-year-old kid, and you know you're in your 20s, early 30s, something like that, they will grow up to at some point in time, you'll go to a bar and have a beer with them.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It is.
It's something
fun to think about.
Well, my special lady friend does have children, but they were already like walking and talking and all that stuff when I met them. So that's not as weird for me to think about. Although it's kind of weird to think about.
It's kind of weird to think about. Yeah. I thought about it when we went to Mexico with Steve's parents, and our kids were there, and his mother shot tequila with her grandchildren. And it was just such an awesome moment to be able to say, I was out shooting tequila with Grandma last night. You know, that was fun. And that's when I realized that's going to keep happening.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about my grandmother later. If I told the story about my grandmother, I feel like she might come back from the dead and kill me, because there are stories about my grandmother, and that's not the woman I knew. The woman I knew went to church every Sunday because she found the Lord in, like 74, hanging out in Nashville, apparently. Who knew? But, it was a pretty hip scene back in the day. So, the stories I've heard about my grandmother are not the woman I knew. Maybe I'd like to have her to dinner, but like before that, because...
when she was a little crazier.
Yeah. Anyway, I lost both my grandparents when I was a teenager. Actually, my grandmother, I think, died when I was 21. So there's no real chance to hang out and chat with them. And certainly we never got loaded together, but, might have been fun. All right. So you want to get your great-great-granddaughter drunk. By the way, I thought the reason you were going to have her over was so that you could ask her, who won all the Super Bowls. And then you would turn her into a billionaire just like while she's sitting there at the table.
Yeah.
That's not really why I thought, but I like the idea that would be the reason. I want to have my great-great-grandson over and bring an almanac, just like in Back to the Future.
Exactly.
Whatever. All right, your third invitation goes to whom?
Well, this was tough because I thought about having my dad because he was one of my heroes. But then I should have my mom and my dad. But then my brothers passed away and they'd all want to come. And so it's just like, OK, none of you guys get to come. I can't invite any of them. So I decided my friend Eric Mayu, he passed away a few years ago. And he was, first of all, he was one of the smartest people I ever knew. He was one of the funniest people I ever knew. And he described his friendship with me perfectly once. He said, if you come to me and you're really mad that somebody did you wrong, I will 100% of the time take your side and defend you to the death on that until the next day when I'll tell you what I really think.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing to know that like he would always have my back and that he would tell me the truth later, because you don't really want to hear the truth right then.
Right.
But it's okay to hear it later, but you don't want it right then, you know?
Yeah.
He was a great guy, and I think first of all, he'd get a big kick out of talking to Grace Hopper, and I know he would really like to talk to my great-great-granddaughter, because he was Uncle Eric to my daughter Lindsay, and to my son Kyle, but he knew Lindsay a lot better, and they were just great pals. I mean, he taught her to sing the "I'm a Lumberjack" song from Monty Python. Yeah. So we have video of her at like, I don't know, 3 years old, butt naked, singing "I'm a Lumberjack." That's good stuff right there, you know.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I think the foursome, I think that would be a fun conversation. I think we'd have a lot of fun.
I gotta say, I am so incredibly impressed with your list, and that makes it sound like I was not impressed with anybody else's list, but you did something in there that's pretty incredible. You're like, I want to invite this other person because I know he would love talking to these other two people. Also, you made it really personal, which is neat, you know, because that's neat. That's neat.
It was fun to work on. I've been thinking about it I'm glad you gave me a long heads up.
I did give you quite the heads up. Yes.
I swapped a lot of people in and out, you know, some people didn't make the cut because three is but you got to be perfect when it's only three, right?
I guess so. And I honestly, I'll be waiter.
I was going to say, now you want to be there, don't you?
Well, no, for your meal, I'll be waiter because, and not for I've made for anybody else's meal, by the way, but that's a fascinating table you put together. We're having hot dogs, by the way. Sorry. Because we're out of everything else, but, you know, it's more about the conversation than the food.